You're listening to China Manufacturing Decoded from the Southeast Group.
Hello, Renaud and Joran here, and I'm recording this on the evening of the 12th of May, China time, as we get the news earlier today that there's been some changes with the tariffs for products made in China and sold in the USA. So I'm going to do a quick recording here just to explain what we're thinking here. All right, so first a little bit of background. In, when was that? February and March, Trump added 10% and then another 10%, total 20%. And he said this was linked to fentanyl, okay, because China doesn't do enough to curb the manufacturing of raw materials used for fentanyl and so on and so forth. All right. So extra 20% on top of the tariffs that were already in place. And then on April the 2nd, he came up with, I think, an extra 34%, on China, and then China retaliated, and then the Trump administration raised the tariffs on made-in-China products up to an extra, 145% as retaliatory tariffs, etc., etc. Okay, so super high tariffs, 150% and up, pretty much saying, hey, don't ship anything from that country to our country, right? Okay. Now, maybe a couple of weeks ago, it became clear that this was going to go down soon. Why is that? Now is May. If production doesn't start now, a lot of shelves are going to be empty for Christmas. Now, let's not even talk about what is it called, Black Friday and things like that. But Christmas is a huge season for a lot of companies. And if you kill that, a lot of companies are going to be really, really feeling the sting. So a lot of retailers and brands, lots of companies started to put pressure and to say, well, if this was going to be like, okay, we're going to start to lay people off and so on and so forth. And there was a meeting at the White House, I forgot exactly when, but roughly 2 weeks ago, with Walmart, Target, and maybe a few others. And basically after that meeting, they started to issue purchase orders to their China suppliers saying, okay, let's go ahead again. So decode the message. Clearly it says, okay, we have assurances that tariffs are going to go down to a level that is a little bit more manageable. Okay. And obviously, small and medium-sized companies do not have the luxury of, being able to go to the White House and get some news ahead of others. So they kept their orders sort of on hold. Some of them put some products in bonded warehouses in the USA or in Mexico or in Canada. Basically, in places where the goods are not far away from the market, okay, and then they are ready. They are ready for the tariffs to go down, basically. Now let's look at what was announced, because the first news that came out were pretty unclear, like what exactly does that mean? Some people thought, oh, okay, so total tariff is just 30% now. And then things became a bit clearer a little bit later. So usually I wait for the Wall Street Journal to come out with an article. Usually they're relatively fast, and they tend to explain this nicely. Okay, so here's exactly what was announced by the Secretary of Treasury, Bessent, and the U.S. Trade Representative, Greer. Basically, all the tariffs that were in place before April the 2nd are still in place. Okay, so the 20% on fentanyl are still in place. The, 25% on a lot of products that were already in place since Trump won are still in place. The extra tariffs on batteries for electric vehicles, solar panels, etc., from the Biden administration are still in place. Okay, so what happened is that they took all the tariffs that were added since April the 2nd, okay, so the 34% plus all the retaliatory tariffs that went up to whatever, 145% plus. Okay, they took that and they reduced it down to 10%. Okay, so at the minimum, for a product that was not subject to any tariff, but that was subject to the 20% tariffs on fentanyl, plus all the retaliatory tariffs announced since the 2nd of April, it's just a 30% base, okay? But for most products that we work on, there used to be 25% already from Trump 1, so now it's plus 30%, so it's 55% for the products we make in China, all right? Now, let me see what else. So this is not forever. This is for 90 days, the time to keep enough pressure so that the Chinese party keeps coming back to negotiate, but not too close, so that they have time to discuss about the details, and hopefully this time they will think of the consequences. They will study the impact of their policies. Okay. China, on their side, they said, okay, we put 125% retaliatory tariffs, we put that down to 10%. Okay. So this looks good for Trump. Okay. He still has the upper hand also, right? He still puts more tariffs than the other side puts on his country. So I guess when it comes to saving face, he must be happy. And let me see what else they said. Yeah, obviously there's pressure on Beijing to purchase some U.S. goods to narrow the trade imbalance between the countries. Okay. Now what happened is the US dollar went up a bit. Probably the stock markets is going to go up. Okay, that's the very, very short term, right? Now, let's think of the effect. So when American importers could see that Trump was coming back and there's going to be tariffs and so on, they purchased more goods. They kept more inventory. They constituted more stock in the US. Okay, and then tariffs came, and they've been eating through this stock. And looking at our customers, they've had to reorder, even under the high tariffs sometimes, some extra products. Okay, so now they see, okay, we have a 90-day window where it's, depending on their products, maybe 30%, maybe 55%, maybe more. Okay, but is this going to be, is it going to get worse 90 days later, right? So what are people going to think about that? No idea. Just looking at the first trade deal that was done with the UK, they're still at 10% tariff. Okay, so they kind of, they were given 10% for 90 days, and then they secured these 90 days. These 10%. So people are kind of thinking, well, 10% sort of the minimum that companies can negotiate. If you're given a certain percentage for 90 days, if you do a good job, maybe you can keep that for longer. Okay, people are going to go through all kinds of calculations here. It's not so clear in my mind. Could be more complex than that. But in probably in 1 or 2 months, more frameworks, let's say, not really agreements, but let's say embryonic agreements will come up with countries like maybe Vietnam, Korea, Japan, India, and so on. And then people will kind of figure out, okay, what is that going to announce for China? Okay, we will see. But I do think that production is going to get busy for USA orders in this 90-day period. Okay. What about the effect on the logistical infrastructure? There's been a lot of goods held in as inventory in Chinese warehouses, and they're going to be shipped out. And then now everybody's just going to try to ship everything out at the same time. I think air cargo is going to get much more expensive from China to USA. Sea freight might get might get expensive because it's not something that can be put back online, if I may say, just by snapping the fingers. I mean, the boats are over there, they were put on other routes, not the Trans-Pacific. Well, how long is it going to take to get them back on that road, right? Also, there's been some blank sailings, basically canceled sailings. Yeah, this is a big unknown for me. How long before it goes back to a decent capacity, shipping capacity? Okay, the whole thing, the whole logistical infrastructure, including the ports, including the truckers. So right now in Los Angeles, but not just Los Angeles, like Seattle, like ports like Houston, Savannah, New York, they're seeing a much lower influx of goods, and the truckers, everything. Well, they're gonna go and do some other things. They're gonna go back when the full boats, the full ships are gonna come back. Who knows, right? With COVID, we've seen that just by misallocating some containers worldwide, it created such a mess. So this is what people call a bullwhip effect here. So send the demand down quite a lot, and then after that send the demand up a lot, and then who knows what happens after 90 days. Maybe it goes down a lot. What effect is this going to have on shipping capacity and on prices? No idea. Okay, but there's a risk here. And finally, the closing thought is that a lot of American companies have a China trauma. I mean, a lot of companies, when they're saying, oh yeah, we're manufacturing this in China, they have a pretty bad taste in their mouth about that. They're worried. They see that as a huge risk. They see that as something that is not really sustainable. So they will keep looking around for other options, right? And that's why we've been talking a lot to our customers about our backup plans in India, in Malaysia, and we're working actively with a number of our customers to transfer things out of China. But basically, my thought is that this is a long-term thing. American companies and, their investors, their boards, their customers, etc., going to say, oh, it's made in China. Oh, okay, not really sustainable here. Like, you're sitting on a sand castle, basically, that might be wiped out anytime. People are going to see a lot of risk. Anyway, that's it. That was my thoughts. Again, May the 12th at night, China time. I hope this maybe helps clarify some of your thoughts, and let us know what you think. Thanks.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast, brought to you by the Sophie's Group. We're on a mission to provide you with everything you need to manufacture effectively in Asia, including inspections, auditing, new product development support, contract manufacturing, 3PL warehousing and fulfillment, and much, much more across Asia's key manufacturing areas. Visit us at sofeast.com, that's SOFEAST.com, to learn more and get help. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, please do rate, review and share, because it will really help others discover us too.